Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. I am Jackson, and I'm joined here, as always, by the man who is the On the Sideline podcast MVP, Kyle. Kyle, how are you doing?
Doing fantastic. Kind of a whirlwind couple days and a long weekend, so happy to be here.
Yes, Kyle. I know you're as a former Dallas Mavericks season ticket holder. I'm assuming that been a crazy 24 hours.
Yeah, a lot of texts and calls, a lot of thoughts, a lot of opinions, and it's been a little bit of a ride and absolutely, I mean, just an insane day. Absolutely insane day. One of the craziest days in sports history.
Yeah, I think we actually had some questions about it. So maybe during the viewer questions section of this, we can go into that. We should set up what the show is going to be. So before we do our full Super Bowl preview upcoming this Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, now what we're going to do is we're going to give our Super Bowl MVP picks. It's an annual tradition where we pick our top 20 players who are most likely to win Super Bowl MVP, which is always fun because usually there's only like 2 or 3 guys who can actually win it anyway. But it's a fun exercise. What we're also going to do, since that probably won't take up a whole show, is we're going to give some Super Bowl prop bets, and then we will end the show by answering some of your questions. If you want to ask a question, there still is time on the community notes tab. I believe it's under post on the channel. There's a post where I've asked for your questions. You can ask any questions there. So we'll do that at the end of the show. Does all that sound good, Kyle?
Yeah, a lot of getting into, and let's dive right in.
Okay, let's dive right in, Kyle. Yeah, let's go with the Super Bowl MVP picks. Now, again, it's a fun thing that we do where obviously there are only a couple of people that we're thinking has more than, I don't know, a 3% chance to get it. But that's also kind of what makes this exercise fun, is trying to figure out who could potentially get it. So, Kyle, what we usually do is one person gets the first overall pick, the other person then gets picks 2 and 3, and then we go back and forth one pick at a time. It's just because obviously pick number 1 is so valuable in this kind of thing. And you know what? It's I don't know. I'm feeling in a giving mood. I'll let you have the first overall pick if you want it. Or would you rather? I'll let you choose. Would you rather the first overall pick, or would you rather 2 and 3?
Why not? I'll take the first overall pick. So yeah, like you said, we have nailed we have nailed our Super Bowl MVP picks every season.
Every
we
year.
managed to get it. It's unbelievable.
Uh-huh.
Although who knows? Maybe a Malcolm Smith situation comes around. Maybe who would either of us have picked Dexter Jackson in 2002? Probably not. Anything is possible. We could be wrong this season. And if we are, make sure to go in the comments and let us know. Number 1 is the most obvious pick. He is the best player in football.
Saquon Barkley that early.
Yeah, he needs no introduction. He has won several Super Bowl MVPs already in his career. He has won several Super Bowls already in his career. It is Patrick Mahomes. He is the best player on the Chiefs and most likely to win the Super Bowl MVP, given that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So that feels like an easy slam dunk.
Yeah, I mean, it's a slam dunk number 1 for like several reasons. One, he probably will actually be the most valuable player in the Super Bowl, so that helps. The fact that if the Chiefs win, almost certainly he's going to get the award. And we've seen in years past, you could argue other players and he still got it. So, the voters like to give him the award. It feels like the Chiefs are favored too. So it feels like every single box is checked for Mahomes.
Yeah. No, it definitely checks all the boxes. And, maybe it was a good thing that I took the first overall pick because we don't want to spoil your pick in any way for next on our preview show. Could you have given your preview away if you picked a certain player for a certain team? Who knows? But yeah, it just feels like the obvious slam dunk. It would have to take like when Brady didn't win the Super Bowl MVPs, it was years that his receivers basically broke receiving records, the reception records. Deion Branch did it, and Julian Edelman did it. It's just going to have to take something like that, or could there be a kick return and receiving touchdown and maybe a passing touchdown involved, something like that crazy that would have to, I think, swing it from Patrick Mahomes from winning if the Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and I think we'll get into it in just a second. I think the Eagles have more players who could win it. In fact, I think that they have 2 players who I feel pretty high up, and let's use that to transition because Kyle, for the first time ever that we're doing this, quarterbacks are not going 1 and 2. Instead, Saquon Barkley is number 2. And in fact, I looked this up. He's number 2 in the odds as well. Like, this isn't just like me. I thought I was going to have a hot take. I'm like, oh no, this is actually what people are like thinking, because I mean, most playoff games they've won this season, it hasn't been people saying, wow, Hurts was amazing. It's been people saying, wow, Saquon Barkley was amazing and Hurts did his job. So
Yeah.
I see a similar thing happening. And especially if they do win, it probably means they would have to close out a game, meaning they probably would have to have some nice Saquon Barkley runs there.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because I had him number two as well. And like, if you just look at these playoff games, like I think Jalen Hurts has been pretty well, played pretty well in the postseason. These couple
Mm-hmm.
postseasons games for sure. Um, but the difference is nobody's talking about him. Like
Right.
it's all about the Saquon Barkley 60, 70-yard runs in all these games. And you know what? When it comes to the Super Bowl, it's the very last game of the season. You usually want to put your running backs on ice for this situation. I imagine he's going to get the ball like 30, 35 times unless this team goes down by multiple scores. So that could happen. Then they got to throw the ball. Maybe Hurts makes some big plays, leads them back, and they get the win. But I think if game script keeps this game close, I think Saquon's going to be well over 30 touches in this game and definitely could bring home probably going to be the most impactful player in Philadelphia's offense.
Yeah, and you look at some other times that a player that's not the quarterback has won the award. It's like Cooper Cup, right? Who kind of that whole season, it was the three-headed monster of Matthew Stafford, Cooper Cup, and Aaron Donald. It wasn't like Matthew Stafford is the star. So like it kind of makes it easier. I think you could have argued Stafford could have won it, and I honestly wonder if like the names were switched, would Stafford have won the award that year? But because of I think like this year, again, Saquon was the MVP candidate. It wasn't Hurts. So like I think that's what he has in his favor.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it completely goes in his favor, so it makes a lot of sense. So I would assume then, obviously, you're going to take the second quarterback, number three, right?
Yeah, I mean it's again. I'm not going to get that crazy. Yes, Hurts still is a starting quarterback in the Super Bowl. Like I don't know. It's easier to make the bold pick when I have picks 2 and 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. Um, But yeah, I mean, there's a very good chance, and for all the stuff about handling Steve Spagnuolo defense and all that, Jalen Hurts has played Kansas City's defense pretty well in the past.
Hmm.
He has the ability to do that, and having such a great offensive line in front of him, like if they're going to blitz and Steve Spagnuolo, which he probably is, because I just think it's what he does and it works generally. If they're able to contain those blitz, pick up coverages, and it's a lot of one-on-one situations, Jalen Hurts can absolutely make those throws. He can make those plays and he can make the difference. And he could still escape with his legs because he's one of the best runners in the league as well. So, all that put together, Jalen Hurts could have another big Super Bowl just like he did a couple years ago. He was debatably the best player in that game besides Mahomes.
Yeah, I think he was debatably the best player in that game. I mean, he was very good in that game. Just didn't quite do enough. But yeah, I mean, okay, so that's number 3, Jalen Hurts. We have 17 picks left, and here's really where I think the draft starts here at pick number 4. Kyle, where are you going?
The draft absolutely starts here. So I struggled between two guys, one for each team. One, I think the better player right now, but also I think he struggled in the postseason. And the other one, I think is a little more narrative based, and he's still a fantastic player. He's still the best player on the offense. So I am going to go with Travis Kelsey. I do think this is a
Okay.
narrative thing, though. I think it makes a lot of sense for Kelsey to be able to be that next guy up because, I think the receivers are going to have a really hard time for Kansas City, and they're going to need one of their two big kind of over the middle playmaker, slot playmaker, tight end playmakers to really step up. And I mean, we've just seen Kelsey again and again do that sort of thing. So, I think you could look to a game script sort of similar to, you look at a team like the Texans that they played in the postseason that had an awesome defensive line, really good secondary, and it was Kelsey over in the middle again and again abusing that team. And I mean, if that was the Super Bowl, for example, I think Kelsey might have brought home Super Bowl MVP from that game, or at least been in the debate. And that's kind of what we'd have to look for Kelsey to win it.
Yeah, I get that. You make a good point with like the Houston thought. First, we have overlap 618 with a super chat. Jackson, this is overlap the mod. We want your prediction this week or else. Fly, Eagles, fly. Wednesday, overlap. Wednesday, it'll be there. Also, overlap then says Travis Kelsey, what an insanely dumb pick. Get Kyle off of here and put me on. No, Kyle's staying on overlap. But no, it's a bit of a reach for me as well. I have to say, I'm more on overlap side here. Although you do bring up a great point with the Houston thing of like that is a great example of how it could work. They play really good defense. Mahomes' numbers aren't overwhelming, and when he does throw, he throws to Kelsey, kind of similar to how Julian Edelman won in the Patriots' most recent Super Bowl. I just think that if the Chiefs win, it feels like Mahomes is going to get the award. I think that's and like, you're going to see me pick a lot of Eagles coming up because like that's just kind of where I'm at.
I agree with it. I mean, I agree with the take and the opportunities there, but yeah, I just think if I'm going to make a case, I think there's two other guys for Kansas City I can make the case for, and I think those would be he's one of those two guys, especially at least on offense. We can get to defense, obviously, if it's a low-scoring defensive game, anything's up for grabs there. But yeah, I just think he's one of those two guys, and like I said, I think we've seen the game script in this playoffs to the sort of situation that Kelsey could win a Super Bowl MVP and bring it home. And I mean, I hate to say it, like for all the things that I think Philadelphia does really good defensively, and they are fantastic, they are still a predominantly zone-based team. That's a Vic Fangio defense for you.
Hmm.
And I mean, this may be the greatest zone busting player in the history of the league.
Yeah.
Not even just like
Hmm.
I think that could be a huge part of the factor for Kansas City winning this game.
Yeah, no, I get the argument. I think I was probably too. I had him at 9. I think that was probably too low. Although I still think 4 is a bit too high. My number 4 pick was AJ Brown, who now goes
Hmm.
5th here. Feel good about getting AJ Brown here. I mean, I get the three-headed monster with Philadelphia of Hurts, Saquon, and AJ Brown. The logic here, defense goes all out to stop Saquon Barkley. AJ Brown's able to get a couple nice plays down the field, get him 150 yards or so, or get like I don't know 100 yards. Hurts throws for 170. Saquon only has like 90 yards, and they win on defense. And then AJ Brown's gets the trophy that way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it makes a ton of sense. He's going to have a lot of one-on-one opportunities. I'm curious to see where Kansas City matches up their defense with him. You know, I love Trent McDuffie. That's a bit of a height disparity.
Hmm.
So we'll see if that is the play there. But still, like I think AJ Brown could go up against any corner and win, and
Yeah.
that's even talking about an All Pro such as McDuffie. So I think I think it's a very good play, and he hasn't really brought it in the playoffs, which moved him down to 5 for me. But like we still know AJ Brown can do his thing at any point.
And he did play well against Washington. Granted, it's Washington, but still, he played well.
He did play well. Yeah, I mean that was a different one. I mean, I just felt like that whole uh, Lattimore thing just threw everything for a loop. It felt like for me.
Possibly. Kyle, number 6. Where are you going?
I'm going to take the other Eagles receiver. So, there is a pretty good chance if the Eagles win this game, or a very good chance if the Eagles win this game, you are going to have the Super Bowl MVP pick right. But it just feels like there could be a situation here where the Chiefs are overloading at the line of scrimmage. They're devoting a lot of their secondary attention to AJ Brown. And then, like I said, if we're going to say a possession based receiver like a Deion Branch, like a Julian Edelman could set the receptions record, Devontae Smith could absolutely get like a 10 reception day or more, a double digit reception day. And that could be the difference in this game. One of the fascinating things I think going into this game, and we're going to get way more in depth on this stuff, the Chiefs have not faced a lot of great number 2 receivers.
Right.
I think
They
this
haven't
team,
faced any.
yeah, they've been that for as much as I think this defense looked very leaky to start the season for sure, and we saw that like big as a likely game stuff like that. They looked a little leaky to start the season and then played a lot better. They haven't been tested as much as we want. They didn't face the T Higgins. They didn't face either the Tampa Bay receivers if I remember correctly, and I
Hmm.
think they barely saw Chris Olave in that game if I remember correctly. So there is an opportunity here where Devontae Smith could have a big game like that, and absolutely, just kind of be the forgotten guy in the game plan for Kansas City's preparation and just have the monster day.
Yeah, he was. I actually have one player ahead of him. I'll talk about that player in a second. But I totally agree that you think that if they put so much attention to AJ Brown, because like you brought up, it seemed like every time they played a team with multiple good receivers, one of them was hurt. The only exception really was the Houston when they had Nico Collins and Tank Dell. But then Tank Dell was he got hurt in that game, so they then lost. So
He was also great in that game until that point.
right. Yeah. I mean, he had a huge touchdown pass that was what got him injured on. So, yeah, exactly. So, I agree. I think this is a very strong pick. The one thing I look at is I feel like the Chiefs on paper should be able to be okay. Like whether it's Jalen Watson or Trent McDuffie on covering Smith. I feel like that's not like a horrible matchup.
It shouldn't be in theory on paper. It shouldn't be a horrible matchup. But like you
Hmm.
said, like as good as I think Jalen Watson's been this season, and I do want to give him his credit, we just haven't seen the matchups. Like this is just a different level of
Yeah.
matchup than they face. So is this going to be too much? Like you said, um, Tank Dell had it until his leg snapped off. Basically, he had a huge
Okay,
day in that.
probably better way you could have phrased that, but sure.
Yeah, until that very unfortunate injury, he had a monster day in that game up until that point. Even if you go back to that Saints game, Rashid Shaheed had a big touchdown in that game too. Like that, he has kind of the player archetype of those guys that he could have, and he's better than those guys too. By the way, Devontae Smith's a very good number two receiver.
Yeah.
Um, and so I just feel like there is an opportunity for him to have a huge day.
Completely agree. And like I said, this is kind of fun doing this exercise because it's almost like a preview of our preview coming up on Wednesday. But I'm going to go with someone who I think is similar, but I just like the matchups he's going to get more. I'm sticking with Philadelphia, but going Dallas Goddard, the tight end, who I just think is going to have better matchups. Essentially, I kind of like the Chiefs, McDuffie and Watson a little bit more than I like Justin Reed on Dallas Goddard. Who I like Justin Reed for what he is, but man-to-man coverage against a good tight end is not where he excels. The Chiefs have struggled with that this season. And I think this could be maybe the biggest matchup advantage that the Eagles have heading into this game. One of the issues is that he's just not as big of a name as guys like Smith and Brown are. So I think that there would have to almost be like a learning curve into Super Bowl, which isn't what you want. And I think that does factor in of like, I think if a player like Damian Williams for the Chiefs in their first Super Bowl probably deserved the MVP, but nobody's heard of him before, so like it was tougher
Right.
for him to get it. Like I think that's one thing that's against him, but I just think he has a good matchup here.
He does have a good matchup. There is an opportunity there for him. It would be interesting to see, like in theory, like you said, they've struggled with it, but they also have good players there, which does concern me a little bit. Like,
Hmm.
can they just rise to the occasion, sort of thing? But they have struggled with the matchup, so they have to prove it to us that they can. So there's absolutely opportunities for Goddard, and I do think a lot of it is very similar to Devontae Smith. I did have him number 8, so I had one guy between them. Um, but I do think there's a lot of similarities to the Smith situation where, you know, the Chiefs like to be opportunistic with the way they overload their coverages sometimes and play super aggressive. And then there's obviously opportunities on the backside of that if you're able to pick it up and beat it.
Yeah, Kyle, who'd you have ahead of Goddard?
I went back to Kansas City. I took one more offensive player, so maybe a little risky, but I did go with Xavier Worthy at this point. Um, I do think he is the guy for Kansas City that could have the best potential day against this very tough, very difficult to play Philadelphia defense. I just think his speed is different. They use a bunch of gadget plays with him. You mentioned that Damian Williams game. Could he have some Damian Williams like impacts catching the ball out of some weird situations, like out of the backfield because they'll line him up back there, give him a jet sweep or something like that, so he has a rushing touchdown. Although it'll probably be a Mahomes passing touchdown because they do that dumb little forward pass play,
Uh,
um, things like that. He's someone that they can gadget play, throw him on special teams because he has been a special teamer and good at it too. And his speed is just so different. Like there's just a lot of ways that I think Worthy could get the ball in his hands in this game and make an impact. And so like it could just be one of those things where like he has two or three massive like plays and like maybe two or three touchdowns. And it's just like, okay, those are the biggest plays of the game. And Xavier Worthy was a big part of it.
I understand it. I was so he's higher up on. I was looking at the odds. He's higher up on the odds than I have him. I had him down at 11. So I had a handful of players. I think I had 3 players still on the board ahead of him. I get it. I get the logic of he is the Chiefs' probably number one receiving option other than Kelsey. It makes sense to pick him. I just think where I struggle with it is so his career high in yards for a game is 85 yards. That was last week against Buffalo. Um, is he, you probably need more than that to win a Super Bowl MVP, I would
Mhm.
assume. And I think the question is if he goes for 130 yards, like Mahomes is probably winning the MVP. It's just where I have a hard time seeing a scenario where he goes crazy, but Mahomes doesn't.
I think the scenario would have to be this is a low scoring game and he
Mhm.
gets like two huge plays. Like they win 14-13 and it's off of like two huge touchdowns from him, right? Like
Sure.
something along those lines would be my way of thinking that that's how he wins it, but it's a yeah, it's going to come down to is it can he have a big game while Mahomes doesn't have a big game? That's going to be the biggest question.
DG in the chat says Kyle looks like he's about to beat some 12-year-olds in Call of Duty. Yeah, Kyle, is that what you're doing after this?
Yeah, get the rig all set up and gonna go live after on Twitch. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. No, I mean this why this whole podcast is so stupid because like we're 8 picks in, like there's not like we're now at the point where we're guessing if a player will do something he hasn't done in his entire career, like because that's what we have to do when we're 8 picks into this stupid show.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it gets the ridiculous, but there are some good players still left, so
Yeah.
we'll keep it moving here.
Overlap 618 says this is the final straw. Kyle is a Kansas City Chiefs homer. Get him off of here. This is Overlap the mod. No, Overlap, he's staying. Sorry.
This is kind of my show. I'm here sometimes. I just show up.
Kyle, you have 50% ownership of the On the Sideline podcast.
Huh. All right, there we go.
now it's it's out there. So now you can sue me later if you have to.
All right, good to know. I'll just reference this show.
Yeah, exactly. Kyle, my number 9 pick. I'm sticking to Philadelphia again, just because I think that I think Mahomes is gonna most pathways to victory involve Mahomes having a good game for the Chiefs. Not all pathways for the Eagles are that way. So give me Jalen Carter, who the issue with a defensive player is it doesn't matter if you're actually the most valuable player. We've seen this time and time again, where Dante Hightower in the most recent Patriots Super Bowl victory, like he would have been my pick, but like it doesn't matter because he didn't have the stats, and he and Edelman did. Carter could get stats. They have a backup guard in the game. He could potentially get through, and he is a player who punches the ball out. Could he get a fumble and then a fumble recovery? Could he get a defensive touchdown that way? Usually you need at least a turnover to get I mean, I think you always need a turnover to get defensive player of the or get Super Bowl MVP as a defensive player. Carter could do it.
Maybe even a touchdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's going to take a lot. So, I think one of the first years we did this, I famously picked Nick Bolton, and he almost had a massive day and won it.
Yeah. Right.
It almost got to that point.
Mhm.
It's going to take a lot for a defensive player of the year, defensive player to win Super Bowl MVP. And I do have a couple named here, and I'm ready to give them off too. But yeah, I think Carter was my number 1 defensive player. I had him next to my list, and yeah, I mean, he can absolutely do it.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's Carter or players that are like, okay, this is like a nice piece to an offense that has a better chance, might have a better chance just because of how the award goes. Why do we do this? Why do we have to do this night up? Why can't we do it 2 days later?
Yeah, I mean, give it some time, give it some thought. I mean, that would
Yes.
probably be fair. How many
Mhm.
Super Bowl MVPs do you think would be different if we gave it multiple days to mull it over?
Probably not many, to be honest, because I bet most people just would don't think about football after the Super Bowl that work in football.
You really don't think so? I don't know. I feel like
Yeah, you're probably right. I think some would change. I think that I think more defensive players would win it.
that's probably true. I would agree with that. I think you could argue Hightower or Gilmore win that the Patriots Ram one.
Mhm.
I think you could argue Damian Williams wins that Super Bowl MVP you talked about.
Yeah.
There'd be a few like that.
Yeah, I think so. Let's move on. Number 10. Where are you going?
Another defensive player. Somehow I'm ending up with all the Chiefs in this draft, which is fine.
Uh-huh.
Look, I mean, if you came away from this game and said who was the best player in the game, this was my parameters for picking this guy. There is a very real chance that whether it's noticed or not all the time, you could leave this game saying Chris Jones was the best player on the field, and that's why he would win Super Bowl MVP. And you can almost imagine it just like Tom Brady in the broadcast, kind of going, you know who I hated to play more than anybody else on the Chiefs? I hated to prepare for. It was that Chris Jones guy who always just wrecked our game plans. And here he is. He's just highlighting every play that he wrecks the offensive line, makes a big play. He's going against a very, very good offensive line, and he's going against a very good offense. It's going to be tough for him to have the similar impact that he does, but Chris Jones makes splash plays and he rises to the occasion. It seems like every postseason, and I think it is I think it is absolutely a thing that he could end up Super Bowl MVP off that situation.
Yeah. Here's the issue. It's you're correct that he could end up being the actual Super Bowl MVP. Like he could be the guy who we say
Yeah.
he should have won it the next day. So he has played in 21 playoff games in his career. He has 3.5 sacks. That's not because he isn't good. It's just your pass rushing defensive tackle going up against one of the best offensive lines in the league. you feel like that's a player you can mostly take out of the game and not. I guess I should say you can mostly keep him off the stat sheet. Doesn't necessarily mean he won't have great games. So many of the, I think he's a legitimately great playoff performer who just like that's the stat sheet you have when you're in that situation. I think Aaron Donald has some similar stats in some playoff games. Like that's just kind of how it works. So I think that's the issue is he only has one career multi-sack playoff game. That was against Cincinnati in the conference championship game. And again, Cincinnati's offensive line couldn't be further apart than Philadelphia's.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a very real thing. Like it's a very real thing that maybe I'm just making this pick solely off the idea of maybe one day I hope that the NFL media and fans and all that get smart like me and realize Chris Jones is probably the most impactful player on the defense by far. So maybe it does happen this year. That's all I'm picking this for, covering my bases.
Owen Weston says London is red. Come on, you Gunners. Do you know what this means?
Yeah, this is soccer. This
Oh,
Owen is celebrating winning a game today to be 6 points back in the championship still. So not really sure what he's celebrating for because they're still in second place. So good job, Owen.
Oh, okay. Congrats on second place. I guess that's still worth celebrating. Kyle, let's plow ahead. I'm also going to pick a player who is going to be very high into rankings of player we say after the Super Bowl maybe should have won the award but didn't. Zach Bond of the Philadelphia Eagles, who's been
Hmm.
fantastic. I think the thing you look at is like the Chiefs like to throw over the middle. Could you get turnovers that way? I think is the because to me with my defensive players, I'm simply thinking who can get turnovers. I feel like Zach Bond has a chance to do that.
Yeah, I get it. I had him down a little bit lower just because I do think he could be the unsung hero in a similar vein. I just don't know. Like, he's going to have to get a ton of tackles, I feel like, to happen. And honestly, I feel like if he is getting a ton of tackles, something's gone wrong
Right.
because he is going to be the guy covering Travis Kelsey, it feels like, the most of this game. And that's going to be his primary responsibility. It's not solely going to be on him because they're probably going to mix things up. But I do think he is going to be on Travis Kelsey in the majority of this game. So if he ends up with a 12 tackle day, that probably means Travis Kelsey caught the ball like 8 or 9 times, which is a bad thing for the Eagles. So it's going to be very interesting. He has to come up with a turnover, I feel like, but absolutely. I think he's had a fantastic year and he's a fantastic player.
Yeah. Number 12. Where are you going?
All right. Who's next on my list? Um, Darius Slay. Another guy, I it's gonna be so tough just because like I think there's a chance that Mahomes is not going to take a lot of chances on the outside against these corners, and that's going to be very tough for him. But he's also the guy that I think can make some plays. And so if he can win a one-on-one battle, maybe make a big turnover splash play, there's absolutely an opportunity here for Darius Slay to come up with some big play Slay, if you will.
He's not called medium play Slay, Kyle. Yeah, it's not a bad pick. I mean, it's again, if we're talking who can get turnovers, he was only a couple spots lower on my list for the exact same reason of like a defensive player needs turnovers. He might need 2 turnovers. It's hard to get turnovers against Mahomes, but will like every now and then be like, okay, let's take a shot down the field. I don't know if he's going to try
Hmm.
Darius Slay, but who else do you try? So like, it's
Yeah.
you can easily you can imagine it if you want to.
Yeah, it's just gonna be tough to see the matchup, and I think Mahomes is gonna take that very seriously, just because the Eagles aren't gonna like send a house 8 guys at him and leave 1-on-1. And even with that, it's just the interesting like this is part of the reason why I think Worthy is such an interesting pick because like you're gonna have DeAndre Hopkins on the outside, you're gonna have Hollywood Brown on the outside against those two very good Eagles corners. And I could see Mahomes just looking at Hopkins against Darius Slay and be like, "Yeah, no thanks." And Hopkins doesn't get a target the whole game.
Yeah, right. That's kind of the issue. But let's move on. 13. I'm going with another Eagles defensive player. I think this happened last time, actually 2 years ago when we did this, where there was like a run of like 6 straight Eagles defensive players or something like that. I'm going Josh Sweat, who again is just like a really good edge rusher. Maybe Joe Thuney, who I thought played really well against Buffalo. Maybe like he has issues there, and then you're able to get again a turnover or two. The issue with Josh Sweat is he's in the contention for the most underrated player in football, probably, right? Like he's legitimately like a star player who just gets no attention whatsoever. Like I bet there's people listening to this podcast who are like, I'm not sure who Josh Sweat is. And he's like he is one of the best, I don't know, he's one of the best players in this game, but that's an issue, is he'll basically have to get turnovers and probably one early. So then you can be like, oh wow, look, he's getting more pressure. Like that's what's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, he's a fantastic edge rusher, so there's no
Hmm.
doubt about it. But it just feels like he does get overlooked sometimes because of the other names on the defense. Jalen
Hmm.
Carter definitely has the splash plays. They have other guys that they've just churned in and out throughout that lineup. So it definitely feels like he could get lost in the grapevine a little bit there. But yeah, I mean, he's a fantastic player and can come up with some big plays. So I agree with you. He is very underrated. He's got an interesting free agency ahead of him, I believe, this offseason.
Yeah.
And I mean, if he wins Super Bowl MVP, he might be he might get just a massive payday off of
The
this. He could be
Jaguars
one
are
of
going to
the
give him so much money if he wins Super
Oh
Bowl
yeah.
MVP.
Yeah, he could go yeah, it could be crazy. So it would be a huge moment for him and to end up with this sort of award or even just in contention for this award would mean a lot.
And poor Jacksonville with the Dan Snyder selling. The Washington football team used to be the team that always we'd make that joke with. Now Jacksonville's it was them or Jacksonville, and now one of them's gone.
Yeah. No, I mean it's someone's got to be the worst owner and it's unfortunately the guys that run wrestling, so it happens.
Well, or at least the owners that just throw money at things.
Yeah, they are. They are. And like the most athletic players.
Yes. Or maybe things have changed. I don't know. We'll see how that goes. Kyle, number 14. Where are you going?
All right, another Eagles defensive player.
Okay.
Similar vein though. However, this is the kind of nickel corner on this team. He plays a lot over the middle, which is where I think Kansas City is going to try and exploit this team. He's going to have some tougher matchups and could come up with some big plays. And the other element to this is he is the punt returner, and he could also have big plays that way. Yes, I'm talking about your favorite white guy, my favorite white guy, everyone's favorite white guy. That's Cooper DeJean. Um, I think he absolutely could have some big plays in this game, and I think the special teams element also makes it that much more interesting to have him. I think this is the best value pick of the draft that we've had so far, honestly. Because if he gets a punt return, he's absolutely at the top of the list.
This was a massive oversight by me. I haven't done my special teams breakdown yet. I missed that he was the punt returner. So I was confused as to why he was so high in the odds. Yeah, this is a great pick because you're right. If he gets a punt return touchdown and a interception or something like that, like forget about it. And we've seen kick returners win the award before. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. So it's going to be very interesting to see if a special teams play can swing it, he absolutely can do that. And he's also a very good defensive player, so that also helps.
Right. Again, he would need a good punt return and a interception to do it. But if he does that and there's no one else to give it to, if Saquon and Hurts split votes, that's how it happens.
Yeah. So it'll be very interesting to see how much he can impact this game, but he's got a great opportunity.
God, this is a great pick. This is pick of the draft, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I was happy to get this value. I think he could be an absolute steal.
And then Mahomes is just gonna win it. I mean, that's again
Yeah,
like it doesn't matter. Like this is a great pick. He has like a 0.4% chance to win it, and most of these guys only have 0.2% chance to win it.
yeah, yeah. It's very low for all of these picks at that point, but
Yeah.
I'm looking for little instances where I can get some value.
No, it's good. It's good. It's again, it's about the journey, not the destination. Number 15, Kareem Hunt. Again, starting running back for one of these teams feels like 15. Like, yeah, it's kind of just got to do it at this point.
Yeah, absolutely take the chance, and he absolutely can be that guy. So I mean, he's had good playoff games and he's been
Yeah.
very good. And if the Eagles are dropping seven guys in coverage and they're playing this deep protection thing to try and alleviate Mahomes, it's still not easy to run in this front four. But there could be an opportunity for Kareem Hunt to get some yards that way.
Right. And, Fangio likes to do the two safety deep coverages. The Chiefs do still have a good offensive line, even if they're kind of playing out of position and everything. Like, there's good players on it. So yeah, that's the way. Could he get some touchdowns? He's been very consistent this season, which is kind of not what you want for a Super Bowl MVP. You want a guy who's been, like, good. But I think he's been good this year. I really think Kareem Hunt has been a nice player for the Chiefs.
No, I mean, the fact that they got him off the street, like,
Hmm.
I'm with you. I think it was a great thing. I was a great signing, and he's definitely panned out for what they were hoping for. And I mean, really, the thing is they let him go and drafted Pacheco, or I guess it was Edwards-Helaire, then Pacheco, because they didn't want to pay Hunt, right? That was the reasoning behind it. And then, like, the fact that they're getting Hunt on probably a cheaper contract than Pacheco at this point, like, that makes it a whole lot easier. Like, there's not much difference, I think, between the two players on its own.
Yeah, it's interesting how this is. Imagine if like Clyde Edwards-Helaire worked and they had like an elite running back as well on this team.
Yeah. I mean, it ended up okay with Pacheco, obviously him getting
Yeah,
hurt, but
things worked out. They
Yeah,
have won a Super Bowl every year, they're trying to win their third straight Super Bowl. It's gone okay for them. I'm just saying.
yeah, I don't feel too bad.
No, Kyle, number 16 on the list. Where are you going?
All right, so back to the defense, but we're going to Kansas City side this time.
Okay,
He had a very good season, I feel like, but he had a bit of an up and down season, it felt like at times. But he's had a very strong playoffs and had some really, really impactful plays for the Kansas City Chiefs on the defensive end spot. And similar to your Josh Sweat thing, could he have a couple impact splash plays? Maybe strip the ball from Jalen Hurts, get him in the backfield. George Karlaftis, he's had a really good postseason. He's one of the hottest players on the team right now. And could he have a massive day off of that? I think that's absolutely a case.
one of the hottest players on the team, Kyle. Okay, relax.
Just the performance wise,
Okay, okay. I
Yep,
was just
yep.
saying.
Calm down, everyone.
He's very good. I like the player, and like the issue for me is just going up against Jordan Mailata and Lane Johnson. So I don't think he's gonna like. I had him at 19 on my list because I agree. It's like he's a good enough player. People know him. Like he checks enough boxes. It's just a situation of. I mean, I guess the one thing you do say is Hurts does hold on to the ball for a while. And like,
Mhm.
could you get some plays where he, nothing's open downfield, he holds on to the ball, and Karloftis can make some plays? That's probably how it'd have to go.
Yeah, I mean, Hurts has gotten hit in this postseason. He had that
Hmm.
ankle injury off of a play he held the ball too long. So
Yeah.
this is a very good offensive line, but it's not impenetrable. It's not a wall. So you know, it's definitely something that he can. If it's going to take a lot to beat these offensive tackles. Like you said, it's probably the best duo in the league. Maybe second to Detroit, but it's up there. But it's going to be very tough to beat that group.
Yeah. Yeah. But I get the pick. Kyle, I'm gonna, this player is a little bit lower on my board, but I think I gotta snipe him here. I gotta make sure I get this player. I've got to do what you did a couple years ago. Give me Nick Bolton. We know he can score a defensive touchdown against the Eagles in a Super Bowl. I gotta do it. Gotta pick up Nick Bolton here.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's still a really good player. I don't think it's been
Mhm.
his best season. But still, he is very good over the middle for this team. And yeah, they got a couple linebackers that I feel like can make some big plays. Leo Chenal could be another big guy. He's not on my list, but there are a few guys on this team. I agree.
I mean, the issue with the Chiefs is just like their defense. Just there's so many good players, but there's only one or two stars. Like I think McDuffie and Jones are the two you look at as stars. But again, what helps with Nick Bolton is couldn't you see a scenario though where it's like he's in the conversation again, and people will say, "Oh, he should have won it last time. Now let's give it to him this time." I think those things play in.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it could be an opportunity for him for sure.
But again, no, it will go to Mahomes if the Chiefs
Yeah,
win.
yeah, probably.
Okay, number 18. Where are you going?
But that's not going to stop me from going back to the Chiefs defense because,
Okay.
like you said, there's only a couple like big name superstars on this defense, and we've listed him a couple times, but we have not picked him. It's Trent McDuffie.
Yeah.
Listen, Hertz has had a good postseason, but I also think he's still put the ball in harm's way even in this postseason. I think there's going to be opportunities to maybe take the ball away as a corner if he has a bad throw out on the outside. Even defending a guy as good as AJ Brown, Hertz had opportunities to throw interceptions in that Packers game, in that Rams game, and it could happen again in the Super Bowl. So McDuffie is probably the best corner he's faced this entire postseason, and that's going to be a tough matchup for him. So there is no doubt about it that if he has a bad throw like he did in a couple of those games, McDuffie can definitely take it away and make a big play out of it.
Yeah, he was on my list as well, only a couple spots lower down. I agree. He's a fantastic player. He was in the conversation. I think I even made. I think every year after the Super Bowl, I make a like the real MVP, Super Bowl MVP question mark video, mostly just because it gets clicks, but it's also a fun video to make. So where I kind of give like my other player I think could have deserved it. McDuffie was that guy last year because he had a few huge plays. Again, the issue with him is it feels like he's probably in that role of the guy who like we will all say after the fact should have won MVP, but like doesn't get the credit. Another thing is he's not really a ball hawk. Only 2 career interceptions in his 3 seasons in the league. So that's the other thing. But I agree. He should be on the list.
Yeah. The thing is with these defensive players is probably any one of them to win is going to need either the lowest scoring, most boring Super Bowl of all time, or they're going to
Mhm.
have to get a defensive touchdown. So it has to be one of those two things.
Yeah. And what probably has to be like Nick Bolton got the defensive touchdown, but then and almost got another one, but then he wasn't really in the conversation for the rest of the game. Like Von Miller gets I think he got a forced fumble and a fumble recovery. Neither were touchdowns, but he had the 2 turnover plays that he was a part of, and then he just was constantly getting talked about throughout that Super Bowl, right? I think like
Mhm.
that's kind of what you need is you like I think those are the two things is like you said, either there's no one on offense you can give it to that has the stats to make it work, or you get a big play and you get a bunch of little plays.
Yeah, and McDuffie is an all pro. He's gonna get his
Yeah,
flowers for sure if he's playing that well.
right. But again, the issue is just like, is Tom Brady going to play?
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely up. It's probably not going to happen. So that's the biggest problem.
Right. Again, we're debating pick 18 on this. There's what 44 starters in this game. We're gonna get half of them done, so it's not a horrible pick.
Yeah, absolutely.
19. Well, I guess there's technically more than 44 starters because there's special teams. Got to get a special teams player on here. Harrison Butker makes my pick here. Couple thoughts here, which is one. I feel like the way that he wins is do you get a couple of big extra points? And the Chiefs, they don't do great in the red zone. Like if they win like 18-17 or like I don't know 18-16, Jake Elliott misses an extra point. Bucker makes 6 field goals, a couple 50 plus. Like there you go. That's the way you can win.
Yeah, he's got to hit a bunch of field goals.
Mm-hmm.
Will Harrison Butker win the media vote? That's the question I have.
I legitimately think that's what bumped him down on this list for me. Is like even if somehow he as a kicker deserved it, I'm still not sure he would win it.
Yeah, that would be a tough gamble, I think, and that's probably. I mean, I did have him 20th, but yeah, it's gonna be a tough pick, I think.
I think what helps him though is the Jake Elliott shakiness on the other side. I think that's kind of why I'm a little bit more willing to say it's possible.
If he's bad, if Elliott's bad and he's really good, it's absolutely in the cards.
Yeah, because then the narrative is like special teams was the difference, and like if you say that, like okay, you kind of have to at least consider the kicker.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's definitely up for debate. Yeah, I mean it could happen. The problem is though is like unless they're all like 50-yard field goals, the issue is that if they get like 6 field goals, that they're probably having a lot of really big drives, and so Mahomes
Yeah,
gonna have a bunch of yards.
it would have to be like if Mahomes threw like a couple picks as well. I mean, it's
Yeah,
again when we get this far down the list, it's like okay, Mahomes didn't play great. Like that has if I'm picking any Chiefs player, it's Mahomes didn't go off. Like that's the
yeah,
step number one.
yeah. No, I mean it's a fair point. I get you.
Okay, Kyle, number 20, last pick here. Who are you making sure gets on this board? Which is a lot of pressure here because you don't want to leave someone off the board here, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we were perfect and no longer are.
Yeah, I got to cover all my bases with special teams. I'm
Okay,
not taking Jake Elliott though because I do not trust him.
yeah, that's gotta be a bad pick.
I'm taking Isaiah Rodgers, the kick returner for the Eagles, not the punt returner, which is Cooper DeJean, but similar. You know, Isaiah Rodgers does get on the field defensively sometimes. He could have a big play defensively. He is their kick returner. He could have a special teams touchdown. And so, yeah, he's not as good as Cooper DeJean. He's not going to be on the field as much defensively, but he could have similar impact plays in certain spots.
Kyle, I think this is one of the worst picks since we've been doing this show. I think this is a tough one. I mean, I think that first off, there's a kick returner on Kansas City who's been doing great. Why are we not going there?
Uh, I don't know. I feel like I'm just going to cover the Eagles special teams and hope for the best.
Okay, well, I mean, listen, if this works, then okay, great. And I'm not saying he can't have a big day. I mean, the Nick Bolton thing worked out last time. I just feel like the added benefit of he is a depth player who sometimes gets when a corner gets injured is not really moving the needle for me.
Well, it's either that or what? Samaje Perine, I guess.
I have a couple. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins was left off my list. I feel like there's a similar thing there of if they don't pay enough attention to him, big name. Like that would be a cool story if he won Super Bowl MVP. I think I would like him over Isaiah Rodgers.
Yeah. Justin Watson, maybe? I don't know.
No, Nolan Smith, I think, is a player who, has gotten a lot of pressure. Could he get some pressure on? It's kind of similar to the Josh Sweat thing. Quinyon
Yeah.
Mitchell, a corner who will be playing and will be starting this game, maybe could be a pick.
Yeah, maybe. He's got to get the ball is the problem. I just don't see it.
Maybe not. Perhaps not. I don't know. You're right. Isaiah Rodgers, known ball hawk.
It's going to happen. Just watch it. If he gets a touchdown on this one, you just have to apologize to me immediately. That's all that matters.
Well, if he gets a touchdown, he will not win the award. No one knows who. Like Malcolm Butler did not win the award that year.
Listen, nobody knew who Malcolm Smith was. It happens. It
Okay.
happens.
But Malcolm Smith was at least starting in that game. He was at least a starter.
Just give it time. Just give it time.
Okay. We'll see how well that works. Kyle, I rattled off my honorable mention. Did you have anyone else you wanted to mention?
Yeah, I mean, Savage P. Ryan, like you said, I did think about Hopkins, Juju Smith-Schuster, Justin Watson, Noah Gray. I mean, you can name any, like all these guys who get snaps on offense, you can absolutely name, but it just feels like a lot.
Okay. And I will issue an apology if Isaiah Rodgers gets a touchdown.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yes, Kyle. We've got about 15 minutes left. We've got some time here for some. Still a couple other things. First, let's quickly go through some prop bets. This is an idea you had, which I think is a fun one. I came up with a few. I'm sure you have a few as well. Do you want to just go back and forth here?
Yeah, sure. What is your number one prop bet?
Number one, this is an obvious one for me. Patrick Mahomes rushing over 28.5. I think in a Super Bowl, you always want to hit Mahomes' rushing over. I just feel like he runs way more into playoffs and then even more in a Super Bowl. That feels like a lock to me.
Yeah, I do like that one. Makes a ton of sense. He's going to get his opportunities. He's going to get out the pocket. And yeah, I absolutely see the scenario for it. So yeah, I think I think my favorite one. Do you want me to just keep going or?
Yeah, sure. You can go ahead.
All right. So let's go Kareem Hunt anytime touchdown plus 130. I see some long drives in this game. We've talked about it a lot with both of these teams, honestly. The Eagles they play, for third and short, fourth and short. They're going to get their conversions that way. They're going to run the ball. They're going to control the clock. And honestly, their biggest plays in their offense are Saquon Barkley breaking big plays. These two teams are very long drive teams. They're going to take a ton of clock off their drives. And yeah, I think the Chiefs are going to end up in the red zone a bunch. Give me just one time Kareem Hunt getting it in. And yeah, I think that's absolutely something that can happen. And it's happened a lot this postseason.
Yeah, I'm with you. This one was one on my list as well. And plus, those anytime touchdown prop bets those are just the most fun bets. So, like that's what you do it for is for the if you're betting on prop bets to make money, you're delusional. That's not how this works. You do it for entertainment, and that's what you do. And I had a similar one with Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown. It's minus 115, but that just feels like it's going to hit at any it would be a rushing touchdown, but I mean, any time they get close to the goal line, they do the push. That feels like it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like there's like 5 guys on the Eagles that touch the ball. It feels like,
Mm-hmm.
like it. Honestly, you could probably just put money on all of those guys to have an anytime touchdown, and you probably end up breaking even. Like it's going to be one of Smith, Goddard, Brown, Barkley, Hurts. Just bet all of them to score a touchdown at some point, and I guarantee you, like if they do well, 2 or 3 of them is going to score.
Yeah. It's a good one. Yeah, DG says this podcast is not sponsored by DraftKings. Yeah, we're not, and I'll say this too: don't gamble. It's stupid. It's a bad idea. I don't think unless you want to spend money, do it if you have fun gambling. Don't do it to make money because that's just the whole thing that never happens.
Yeah, I think
it's entertainment only.
That's probably the right move.
Mm-hmm. Because yeah, everyone loses money gambling. Has anyone ever made money gambling?
I'm sure. I mean, there are a few people that are.
The people commercials, I guess. It's rare.
Yeah, it's gonna take a lot.
Yes. We're anti-sponsored by DraftKings. This segment is brought to you by the opposite of DraftKings. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. I don't even know. Let's just keep going. All right,
keep going. I'll go with one.
All right, here we go. This is probably my favorite bet because it just feels like it's going to happen. Chiefs to come from behind and take the lead in the fourth quarter. Yes, plus 200 via Bet 365. Let's go. I just feel like this is all primed for a Chiefs comeback win. So let me just get that. Take the lead in the fourth quarter while trailing. I think it's going to happen.
That's a great one. And you just have to take the lead. They don't even have to hold on.
No, they don't even have to win. It just says take the lead in the fourth quarter.
That's free money.
Yeah, they're going to score a late touchdown and make it happen.
Like just seconds after I'm like, no one should gamble. I'm like, oh yeah, that's free money. Garrett, but put your house on it. It's perfect. That'll work.
And literally a can't miss opportunity.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with one. This is just one you got to go with. Coin toss. Tails.
Tails never fails. I'm
Yeah.
with you.
I mean,
So
that's if you again if you're gonna do prop bets, like you got to do the coin toss. Like that's just something you have to do.
yeah, that and the I don't even know if they do the Gatorade thing anymore, but that was always a fun one.
Yeah, Gatorade, and then I think also the if there will be a safety. I think those are the three that like you just need to put money on. You put money on. Yes, there will be a safety. Those are kind of the three that I think are like that's the fun ones.
Yeah, yeah, you got to enjoy yourself a little bit.
Mm.
So,
Okay,
um,
Cal, give one.
similar to what I just said in the Super Bowl MVP picks, I think this is a great matchup for him. I think he'd absolutely have that opportunity. Devontae Smith over 4.5 receptions for -113.
Yeah, that feels right. And again, the receptions are fun. You could something to keep track of as the game's going on. Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I think this is a matchup for him, and I feel like he's going to have opportunities. So let's see if Devontae Smith can have a big game.
Yeah. My last real one. I have a couple of other like honorable mentions, I guess. Just anytime touchdown. Travis Kelsey. Plus 130. Again, that just feels like that'll happen at some point.
How much was it? Plus what?
Plus 130.
Yeah, I do like it. Yeah, getting plus odds on that is nice.
With the way the Eagles play defense with the zone coverage, like that just feels like there's going to be some third down and goal at the 11 that they convert on.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely see it. So yeah, without a doubt.
Okay. Do you have any
Um,
more?
yeah, I was trying to find one more. I think I had. Um, I was scrolling through a website, so I had one more of this, and then it was a goofy one. Oh, let's go Chiefs anytime defensive touchdown plus 750.
Okay. Yeah. Again, that's fun.
Yeah, they create turnovers. I think there's an opportunity for it, so why not?
Yeah. We have a super chat saying, any chance this could be Pats Rams 13-3? I don't think so. I mean, I guess technically there's a chance, but I'd be surprised.
The only reason I think there's a chance is because these teams, like I said, do go on such long drives,
Yeah.
and it could take a lot of clock. And also, because that was also the thing, the Patriots went on a bunch of long drives in that game, and didn't get a lot of points off them. So it'd have to be something like that where there's just each team's taking 8-minute drives, and Jake Elliott and Bucker miss a couple kicks or something like that. So
Yeah. I guess I think I could see like a 1917 game though.
yeah, I still think it's going to be higher scoring than that, even though both of these defenses are good.
Yeah, I think so as well. Someone says Mahomes is 8-0 versus Vic Fangio's career. Actually, 9-0 if you count the Super Bowl against the Eagles, where because Fangio was a special consultant 2 years ago.
There you go.
Yeah. Okay. The only other couple of honorable mentions I thought of a few Hurts ones. For one, you could double down onto Hurts anytime touchdown. If he has 2 touchdowns, it's plus 550. That feels possible. You have if he's Super Bowl MVP, it's plus 350. Given the fact that he's the starting quarterback for one of these teams, you're not going to get much better odds than that for a starting quarterback. Although again, because Saquon could take it. And then he has, I forget what, I didn't write down what the odds were, but there were pretty good odds for if he throws an interception in a game. He's kind of been on a great run of not throwing a pick, so that could be so the odds are pretty good. But like we said, the Eagles or the Chiefs do a good job of taking the ball away. So those are kind of my other ones.
Yeah, I could see all those scenarios for sure. Um, don't hate any of those. I think that was basically everything I had. The other one I thought about was you could do plus 280 for Saquon 2+ touchdowns.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think I saw that one as well. Yeah, that I feel like the odds are like not like I feel like the odds are almost like that could happen, which I don't love.
Yeah, yeah, it does feel right. And then did you have a goofy one?
I think that the coin flip was my goofy one.
Oh, here we go. Will Travis Kelsey propose to Taylor Swift? Yes, plus 500. Bet the house. No, I'm just kidding.
Plus 500. That's all it is.
Yeah, it
What's
feels
no?
low. Minus 950 or something like that.
Okay, I mean that hammer no. I mean that's the obvious thought. That's free money.
Yeah, it feels like what if if he does, then it's even worse though.
I guess so. I don't know. I feel comfortable with betting no. He will not. I don't think Taylor Swift is going to say yes. The Super Bowl is when we should do that.
That'd be such a weird thing, wouldn't it? Like even beyond, I know this is like whatever. I don't care about Hollywood that much, but it's just so like ridiculous. But why
Yeah.
not just throw $5 down and see what happens?
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
And then if he
That's
does, you're going to Skyline Chili for a day. Why not? Get whatever you want.
yes, I think so. Kyle, let's do some questions from the audience. So again, if anyone has any questions in the chat too, you can ask. We can answer some of those as well. But there were a couple people who asked. I want to hear your thoughts on this. Luca to the Lakers, which is one of those. I think I had the reaction we all had, which is, I'm a casual basketball fan. You're obviously a lot more into it. I read it and I'm like, obviously this is fake. Obviously this is
Mhm.
like someone's making a joke. Like no way Luca got traded. No, Luca did get traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. Kyle, I don't know how your fandom is as a Dallas Mavericks fan. I know that you did have season tickets. Where are you at right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty locked in. I had season tickets for 4 years, so I saw this team make the conference finals with Luka Doncic. I saw them make the NBA finals. I mean, Luka's been one of my favorite players even before I lived in Dallas for that time with the season tickets. So I enjoyed watching him play for a long time. So it's pretty interesting to see this all play out this way because it was shocking. I get Twitter notifications, X notifications, whatever it is, um, for Shams, Chris Haynes, a couple other like NBA writers, just to like stay up to date on all the news because NBA news constantly happens. It feels like at times. So yeah, I got the notification from Shams that said the Dallas Mavericks trading, and then it was like dot dot dot. So I pull it open because I was like, oh, who the Mavericks get? And it was like,
Hmm.
are you trading Luka Doncic? And I was like, oh, Shams got hacked. Because the
Right.
other part of it too was like usually they had the big ESPN graphic with like the breaking news thing below Luka, and that's
Uh
been their big like they do that with all of their trades now is the breaking news graphic. There wasn't even
hmm
a graphic, so you just know Shams typed this out as fast as he could because he was just like blown away that this actually happened.
Right.
Um, and so I'm like, oh, he got hacked. And then there was another tweet that said, this is 100% real from Shams. And I'm like, okay, this guy's really messing with Shams right now. And then it
right.
just kept going. And it was like the ESPN graphic popped up. And then there was like being aggregated by other people. And I'm just like, oh my God, what just happened? And then like I didn't believe it until the Mavericks beat writer said this is a real trade that happened. Um, I think it's the worst trade in sports history. Probably since going back to like Babe Ruth. Like, I think this is insane. I and respectfully, I think Anthony Davis is a top 10, borderline top 10 basketball player in the world. He's fantastic. I don't know how you look at these two players and say Anthony Davis gets us closer to winning a championship right now than Luka Doncic. When you just made the finals with Luka Doncic, you were like 9-1 this season when your starting five was healthy, including Luka, who's missed a lot of this season because of an injury. And yeah, I don't see how you look at Anthony Davis, as good as he is, and say you're closer to winning a championship without Luka and with Anthony Davis. I think that's a massive oversight. I think that saying that you're prioritized in the next 3 to 4 years over the next 10 years, I think that's also a massive oversight. I think there's a whole lot into it that I just think this is all a mistake. And yeah, the Mavericks now have two over 30 stars instead of a 25-year-old player who's debatably a top three, two or three player in the league when he's hurt. So just absolutely crazy.
And I, again, I'm more of a casual fan, so I heard some people saying, "Oh, they probably knew he wasn't going to resign." I'm like, "Oh, is he on his last year of his deal?" No, he still has
Yeah.
multiple years left after this year. It's it's yeah. From my perspective, it seems like you're getting a worse player who's also older. I don't. I don't. And
Yeah.
the weird thing too is like, okay, did he request a trade? Well, no. It turns out that he was very surprised by this move. Like, it seems like we keep waiting for like, okay, what's the other information? People are like, is this the NBA trying to get ratings? Is this collusion? What's going on? What is going on, Kyle?
Yeah. So I don't know exactly. I don't think we're getting the real answer behind the scenes. I think there's a few. I have some speculations. None of them are NBA conspiracy for league ratings, obviously, because that's kind of crazy. Um, but so obviously the conversation was he was not able to get he was able to opt out of the last year of his, or no, he was extension eligible this offseason. So he would have had one more year in his contract next season. He would have opted out of his last year and
Okay.
signed a 5-year, $345 million extension. So he basically could have locked himself into Dallas for 6 years. Um, and then instead of that, though, they decided that they weren't sure if he was going to come back despite no indication of that. Um, I think the first thing is that they obviously didn't want to pay $345 million. There is new ownership there from last season. Having dealt with this ownership group kind of firsthand, my first year there, they didn't do anything. They took over in January of last year. They bumped my season tickets prices up 33% as soon as the season ended and the team made the NBA Finals.
Uh-huh.
Um, so I think that, you had a guy in Mark Cuban who I don't think was a great owner or terrific owner or anything like that. But I think the one thing Mark Cuban was good at is he really cared about the team. Like
Hmm.
he was a Mavericks fan before taking over the team. Like I think he really cared about that and he cared about the fans' perspective. He didn't raise the prices for a number of years. The Mavericks, despite being one of the biggest markets, had one of the cheapest season tickets in the league for a number of years. They immediately bumped the prices up 33%. The first thing they do is trade Luka Doncic now, and now they're below the luxury tax line. So part of me is thinking that they're just looking at this as a for-profit thing rather than it's their business, they can do what they want. That's a crappy way to treat your fans. So there is that aspect. I think the other aspect of it is Nico Harrison, the GM, obviously, who's just been on a press tour for the ages after this trade with some of the quotes he's given to the media. Um, the crazy aspect of it is that he had two terrific trade deadlines before this one. 2 years ago, he got Kyrie Irving. Granted, they missed the playoffs, but in the long term, that has been a very positive trade for Dallas, getting Kyrie Irving. The past season, he got Daniel Gafford and PJ Washington. Both were big pieces in helping Dallas make the NBA Finals. And I'm just wondering if he all of a sudden thinks he's smarter than everybody else, and he's trying to outsmart the league. And there's been a lot of talk about centers in the NBA now because of Victor Wembanyama and what he can do, because of Nikola Jokic and the way he's run the league the past few years. I guess he's trying to think maybe we load up on center and dominate that way because centers are running the league, but I still think it's a massive oversight.
Yeah, seems like a bit of a head scratcher. A couple of super chats that sorry I'm late on getting to these, but Sky Moore and Tony scored last time. Which unused wide receiver will score on the Chiefs? Justin Watson plus 1100. That's a great call. I totally agree. I think you're right on with that one. Also,
Justin Watson, Noah Gray. Yeah, I like it.
yeah, no Gray's gonna win. Yeah, and then another one. More targets, D Hop or Hollywood Brown. I would say D Hop. Right? Seems like he still gets targets.
Whichever one's not on Darius Slay, take that.
Right. Yeah. I think. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Kyle, it's crazy, but hey, I don't know. I'm probably gonna when the. I mean, I saw the Mavericks at least. Talk about getting better defensively. Pretty good. Only gave up 144 points to the Cavaliers today. So
Yeah.
that's well.
Yeah, everybody was out today. I don't know what to think of it, but yeah. So Anthony Davis. The funny thing is, they were concerned about the conditioning for Luca because he had his first long-term injury of his career this year. He's been out for a few months. He was actually slated, they said, to return Saturday, February 8th. So now he's going to return as a Laker from his calf injury. Anthony Davis is also currently hurt, which makes it even funnier for that. And Anthony Davis has had several injuries throughout his
Yeah,
career.
not exactly
So
known for staying healthy.
yeah, Data Davis for some reason is the guy that decided to trade for durability. Um, but yeah, so it's going to be very interesting to see when they both come back. So I guess in theory, Luca could be back a week from now. I don't know what the Lakers' schedule is for the weekend, but we'll have to see what they look like. And I mean, the Lakers have also played really good ball for the past couple weeks up until this point. They're a couple games out of a top three seed, where Dallas has kind of tried to survive this non-Luca stretch for a few months and a little bit lower. So I think the Lakers definitely need a center to pair with Luka and LeBron and all those guys. But if they can get a center, get Luka back, I mean, they may be ahead of Dallas even right now, which is the crazy thing because Dallas made a win now move.
Right. Well, and it always just feels like I don't know. I just feel like when it comes to positions in basketball, you can find a serviceable center a lot easier than you can find Luca.
Yeah. And look, I mean, the thing is the center has become a very important part of basketball today just because of all the guys who are really good with size.
Hmm.
However, Dallas had two good ones. Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford were good enough for this team to make the finals last year and played very well in several playoff series. So, yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah. Well, Kyle, again, I know you could talk about this for hours, but we'll move on. Do some other listener questions here. Which team has the advantage at defensive coordinator in the Super Bowl? Spags versus Fangio is definitely a battle of heavyweights. That's by Elijah 8104. I agree. Definitely a battle of heavyweights. I guess, I mean, it's interesting because I feel like both these quarterbacks have a history of playing well against each other as well. I think I would lean Spagnuolo right now, but I agree. It's tough.
Yeah, I mean, they're debatably the two best defensive coordinators in the league.
Mhm.
So I think they're both very good. I agree with you. I would lean Spagnuolo just because of this. I think if I'm going to bet on one of these defensive coordinators tricking the other quarterback, and generally that's unfair because Mahomes is the other quarterback,
Mhm.
um, but I think Spagnuolo does a better job of surprising other teams than Fangio. I think Fangio is much better in his system and has a more structured situation than I think Spagnuolo does, and that leads to maybe a higher floor for a defense. But I definitely think that Spagnuolo is definitely someone who could be a wild card and catch teams by surprise.
Yeah, Fangio definitely still one of the best in the league. Someone says bring back the quarterback to alcoholic beverages comparison. Kyle, yeah, that was a big hit that one time when you did that.
Oh gosh. I totally forgot about that.
Hmm.
Um,
We should do a
yeah,
whole show on that. I think next time.
yeah. I mean, we might have to do that for an off-season show. I would
Mhm.
need a lot more time to prep for that. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, who would you put? Mahomes has to be kind of top shelf sort of thing. I mean, whatever your favorite tequila is, whatever your favorite drink is, you could put Mahomes in that category. You could put him as your $1,000 bottle of scotch worth every
Yeah,
penny, even though it tastes, it's expensive, but it's worth every penny. Um, Jalen Hurts. What is Jalen Hurts?
I was thinking, is he just like New Amsterdam vodka? Like it's nothing crazy, but it works. It's serviceable. Like it gets the job done.
It feels a little disrespectful. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay. Well, I
I,
don't mind New Amsterdam vodka. Maybe that's just maybe I'm higher on that than you are.
no, I mean it's fine. It's serviceable. It just feels the disrespectful part. Like I think there's got to be a little bit of spice to it. Like
Okay.
he has to bring because he has that upside of like his
Hmm.
running ability is elite. So I think it's got to be something that's solid, but also brings the spiced element to it. So maybe a nice spiced rum. Are you a
Okay.
Kraken spiced rum fan? I'd have to think about it a little more.
See, but this is why you're the person who does this. Like you're absolutely correct. Like you nailed it. I was doing my best. I got halfway there, but like, this is your thing.
Yeah, I'll just come up with a whole list, and you could just react to my list. There's that.
Okay. Yes, that's what we did last time, and it was a great segment. Shout out to Chatter who remember that one. Do you believe the refs will play a significant role in the Super Bowl? That'll probably be the main reason, right? It's just whatever the refs decide is going to win.
Yeah, they're gonna pick it from the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Why do we even want? No, no, I don't think so. I do think the refs will play a significant role in the post game talk.
yeah, someone's gonna bring it up for sure. So, um, it would be nice if we just had a game that nobody wanted to talk about it for sure.
Yes. Hot take, maybe Lions will struggle a lot without Johnson and Glenn calling the plays. Um, I mean, I think that I'm really interested in how that's going to go. Right. I don't think that's out of the question. I think saying anything is definitely going to happen would be kind of crazy. I think, and like I do like on paper like the new offensive coordinator, but like, yeah, I mean, we've talked with Ben Johnson as like a superstar play caller. Like, you have to assume that will hurt losing him.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the element when we talk about a lot with these coaches. It's like hiring assistants and coordinators is such an important part of the job now. Especially, I think, if you're going to give credit to a guy like Sean McVay, is he's constantly churning out great coordinators on both offense and defense. He does a fantastic job at that. Um, it's why he's one of the best coaches in the league. And even he himself's a great play caller, so it works out. But like, we talked a lot about this Dan Campbell tenure is that part of the reason why it's been so successful and he's so good as a coach is that he nailed the coordinator hires. And it'd be interesting to see kind of his thoughts because like he's not view or perceived as like the big X's and O's guy because he didn't really have that background. He was an assistant coach and kind of viewed as like the motivator for that New Orleans team. And you definitely see that on the field. I think his in-game management's impressive, but yeah, he's got to nail the coordinator hires again, I feel like.
Yeah, well, does. Sometimes guys have a knack for it. Sometimes they don't. So we'll see what happens. We have with the NFL shifting to an offensively favored league. What single position on the defense is the most important to be elite at? And do you believe players like Ray Lewis, Urlacher, Sean Taylor would be stars in the modern era? This is interesting. I mean, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say a shutdown corner in today's NFL is the most important position. I think that, like you said, with the favoring to offense, being able to defend a pass is now more important than ever. And having a guy who can actually shut down a number one receiver, or at least come close to that, is I think the most important.
Yeah, I do think shutdown corner, and obviously edge rusher is probably second most important still. Those are premium positions for a reason. I do think I am kind of with you that the corner aspect is a huge part of it now. I think you could say the most underrated position now is a free safety. I just think generally we've seen really good free safeties impact defenses in big ways.
Mhm.
Um, and having that position kind of figured because a lot of these defenses now are two deep coverages, man. So you got to have a free safety back there who's able to cover a lot of ground. So I do think that is something that could be really important. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts on that. I can give my thoughts on the former players.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's interesting because I do kind of agree that, like, I don't know if Ray Lewis is the star. I mean, Ray Lewis was such a personality as well. He might still be, but like, just trying to think about it, like, who are the biggest defensive stars in the league right now? It feels like Ray Lewis was legitimately like one of the biggest stars, like, period, like in football. Like, he was
Hmm.
like a top five like star in football. I don't think we have that right now, do we? I mean, like, who
Probably
are the
not.
play like
Like
T.J. Watt, I guess.
TJ Watt's probably the most famous defensive player right now, but like
Hmm.
I don't view him as like a big star other than like his brother was probably the last biggest star in defense, right? Like,
Right.
and I mean, a lot of that is they do their commercials together and stuff. I would say he's probably the last big one. Um, I generally think though, like all-time great players in any era are probably awesome, no matter when they play. Like I do think the
Hmm.
big thing, like when you talk about any sports, is like the average player in the '60s now or whatever is not nearly as good as the average player now. Like that's just kind of how sports work. These things evolve and change. I do think the best players in any era are probably at least pretty good no matter what year they play. And I think like guys like Urlacher, Ray Lewis, um, Sean Taylor, and who's the other one they mentioned?
Well, oh, sorry. Did I lose my? I think I lost the tab. My bad.
Okay,
I'll find it.
but yeah, I generally think guys like that though could absolutely probably be good in any era, especially a guy like Sean Taylor. He was also a really good, like just rangy player. He's an incredible athlete. The one thing I would be interested in when it comes to like those big middle linebackers like Ray Lewis and Urlacher,
Hmm.
would they be moved to defensive end? Do you think, or do you think they'd still probably play the same position?
I don't know. I feel like that's like a big jump. I feel like that's a completely different skill set, right?
It is. Yeah, I mean, it's just the element of like, would they be too big now in the modern day where we're looking for these, rangy coverage linebackers? But like, I still think they'd find a way to be great no matter which position they played.
I think that'd be good. I do think it's a good question though. Of like, I don't know if they would. I just don't know if they would get the attention because, and what do we
Mhm.
do as fans? We tend to talk about. I really actually like this question a lot because, like, what do we talk about when we talk about games? We talk about like who had the most impact in the game. So now we're shifting to offense with that being what matters more. I think that's a part of it.
Yeah.
Like TJ
It,
Watt can't hit quarterbacks now. Like he would be a top five personality, 5 years ago. But now like Russell Wilson's like equal to him on the same team.
yeah, that's fair. So I guess the answer to the question is they're probably not the like they're probably as good, but they're not as famous. That's probably the right answer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean they're all great though. I think they'd figure it out in this era.
Yeah. Okay, Kyle. Some more questions. A lot of good ones, but we don't have so much time. I think that's our show. Kyle, let them know where we can find us on Twitter before we head out.
Yeah, make sure to follow us on Twitter. That is at Jackson Kruger. Make sure to follow me at by Kyle Gronin, and make sure to follow the account page at on the sideline JK. That is at on the sideline JK.
Of course, if you like audio only podcast, anywhere you get your podcast, search on the sideline podcast. It should be available there. Kyle, next Wednesday, we will have the final pick'em show of the season. Yes, the season's almost over, but we will really get into a full show just previewing Super Bowl 59 between the Eagles and the Chiefs. A week from today, let's do 11 o'clock just because Super Bowl tends to run a little long. So let's do, does that sound good? 11 o'clock Eastern for
Oh,
the
I
Super
thought
Bowl?
we normally did midnight, but we could do 11. That's fine too.
Okay. Is that what we did? Well, maybe we'll. I'll double check and figure out what works, and then we can maybe
Yeah,
11:30 or something. Let's be on the lookout
we
for
can
that.
discuss because yeah, I do
Yeah.
have a. I think I'm going to a Super Bowl party, so it may
Okay.
take me a
Yeah, we
second to
can
get
push that
back.
back too, for sure.
Okay.
So to be determined on the Super Bowl recap, but we'll be live at some point after the Super Bowl on Sunday. So be on the lookout for that, and we'll let you know Wednesday what time that will be. So yeah, that's our schedule. Again, Wednesday 6 p.m. Eastern for our preview show. Kyle, you got a chance. All you need is for me to miss the Super Bowl, and you're going to be a champion for the first time.
It could happen. This is a tough one. I have actually like thought about it myself, and I've gone back and forth on both of these
Yeah.
teams. I think this is a really tough matchup. Obviously, I think there's a trendy favorite, obviously for reasons. They've won a lot, so um, it'll be interesting to see how when we discuss it. But I think it could absolutely go either way.
Yeah, I think this should be an interesting. It should be an interesting one. You did what you did on the conference championship to go 2-0, put me in this position. If you win it, that's what the history books will write as what did it for you.
Yeah, finish the year strong. Just get those 2 wins, and then hope for the best. And I gave myself a chance. That's all that matters.
Yes, you did. I still like where I'm at. I get to pick the Super Bowl, but don't love where I'm at. Yeah, Kyle, that's our show. Any other thoughts? What have we learned here?
Um, I don't think we learned anything.
No.
So,
What about the audience? Did the audience learn anything?
who Isaiah Rogers is?
Yes, I think so. All right. Well, hey, we're I don't know if we're making the world better, but at least we had some fun here.
We're trying our best. So, yeah, definitely.
Yes. Okay. See you all on Wednesday. And until then, have a good one.
Peace.